understand you come from a very musical family. Your dad is a longtime member of the Chicago Symphony as a violinist, and I had the great pleasure of meeting him once last year. I know your mom is a wonderful pianist. Your brothers played cello. I know Christian very well. He's a good friend of mine from Indiana. Can you talk a little bit about your musical upbringing under the guidances of your parents and how that foundational work early on um, helped uh, helped mold you into the violinist you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because whenever I talk to other musicians, I feel like they kind of fall into two pools, and it's either they're the only musician in their family, or everyone in their family's a musician. So I guess I kind
Mhm,
of fall into the latter.
mhm,
Um, but I mean, I grew up with music, and some of my earliest memories are are of music. I think actually one of my earliest memories is crawling into Christian's cello case um, when I think I was like 3 or 4. And I
mhm.
just like remember feeling like the texture of the cello case while I heard like my mom practicing with him. And so it's really been ingrained in me the love for music, I'd say, from a very young age. Um, we used to well, actually, we still do, but from when I was little, we would have these kind of family reunions slash concerts with my dad's side of the family in New Paltz, New York, at in a mountain resort called Mohonk. And so that's like a very core memory for me because I think it started with my uncle Fred, who's my dad's brother, and he's a pianist. And he invited my dad and my mom to perform with him at Mohonk, and um, so they would give recitals together. My uncle and my mom would do like piano duos, and my dad would play sonata with my uncle. And so I remember like sitting in the back, kind of like with a babysitter or something, so it wouldn't be too much of a distraction. And I remember hearing these pieces, um, and it's cool because I listened to some pieces and I'm like, I kind of like that feels really nostalgic to me, and it's like pieces that my dad played then. So I really appreciate and I'm grateful for the training that I had. So my dad was my first teacher. For I started when I was 2, and that came with its own set of unique challenges. You know, maybe like things got too comfortable and I didn't have regular enough lessons, but um, I think I'm even more grateful looking back and like I can see like wow, like, he's kind of a genius. Like things that
Yeah.
he said to me, and I really didn't appreciate it back then. You know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's been unique being in that environment from when I was young, and being able to play with my mom as well. Uh, I feel so lucky to have had like a built-in collaborator from the get-go, and I feel like it's really shaped my ear and the way I hear things because, um, you know, most other kids they only got to play with piano once they've um, like really learned the piece, but I would kind of learn the piece with my mom. So I don't know if that's for better or for worse, but that's kind of what happened. And now when we play together, it just feels so comfortable. Yeah, that's a little bit about how I grew up.
Do you still play with your mom pretty regularly, or?
Yeah, I do. I She just came to Cleveland and played in my recital. So
Oh, okay, that's sweet. Um, and I've always been curious, and I'm curious as to what your take on this is because Chicago is, I would say, one of the biggest hubs for producing a lot of wonderful musicians, and it has a wonderful history of that, especially in the last 30, 40 years or so. What do you think it is about that particular city that helps, foster these wonderful musicians?
it's a good question. Um, I just know from my experience that there was there seemed to be a lot of opportunity for young musicians. Um, there's well, for me, I joined the Music Institute of Chicago Academy, and that just completely changed my life. Because I mean, like I said, I'm very grateful for having studied with my dad. Um, but I switched to Almita Vemos when I was around 12, and when I was with my dad, I didn't really have other kids my age. You know, I didn't have a studio really. So joining Mrs. Vamos's class, and suddenly I was with all these people my age, and we're doing the same thing, and so it made me even more passionate about music,
Mhm.
and just excited to play, and pushed me also. Like I, every week we would have studio class, and she was kind of famous for having a good one. She would say like, "Oh, you know, you guys have it like not so bad. I used to go until like 1 a.m., 2 a.m." And I'm like, still feels pretty long to me. um, but yeah, it was just a very nurturing environment for a young musician, and I really I owe it all to that environment.
Yeah. Well, and the Vamoses, for those that might not know, are actually like legendary in the world of violin pedagogy. I mean, they've, you know, really taught some of the greatest violinists today. So growing up, did you go to Chicago Symphony concerts like pretty regularly?
I'd say fairly regularly. We actually live pretty far from downtown.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, my dad makes like an awful trek, like an hour and a half or something on a
mhm,
with traffic. So we're really grateful to be like in a very nice suburb. But
mhm.
um, yeah, we would go to concerts, but maybe like not every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not the same as like being at CIM and walking down the street to
exactly.
Cleveland. Yeah.
That's literally right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having such a world-class orchestra like literally in your backyard is, I would argue, very helpful in your development as a young musician. Also, just being able to see that kind of caliber of musicianship on a regular basis. So I'm sure that was also helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.